Hello everyone, my name is Hubert and welcome to Teach Me channel. Today we'll be looking at GCSE biology, circulatory system, and today we'll be focusing on blood. We've done the heart, we've done blood vessels, and now we'll be looking at the actual blood itself. We'll look at some blood cell types and some components of the blood, and we'll look at the main functions they play and how the structure kind of reflects the function that they play. Okay, so without further ado, let's get started. So in blood, first of all, we have to say that blood is a tissue. Now, a lot of people, when you think about tissue, you would think about like a sheet of paper essentially with cells on it. Some surface, some tangible surface with cells on it, but tissue doesn't have to be that, because tissue, by definition, as we already covered, is a group of cells that get together to perform certain function. And blood does just that. Blood is a group of different cell types that get together to perform a function. Now, what is the function that blood performs on a whole? So, on a whole, blood acts as a huge transport system. Your vessels are blood vessels are the highways, and your blood are the cars and trucks and everything that needs to get to the cells. So, essentially, blood acts as a transport system, and it transports oxygen to the cells, it transports carbon dioxide away from the cells, and it needs to carry some nutrients, all the nutrients that cells need, and also it needs to carry away some metabolites and some toxins and things like that, and waste products that needs to be removed from the body. So they need to be also carried in blood. It's essentially a huge transport system. Now, in blood, guys, we have at least 3 different cell groups. Now, that is actually even more than that cell types, but 3 main cell groups. And we also have a liquid that actually isn't a cell, but it plays an important role, and we'll go over that in a sec. So, first of all, we have red blood cells, right here. So, red blood cells carry oxygen, and that's their main functions. Red blood cells, their main function is to carry oxygen, to deliver oxygen to the cells. And to do that, red blood cells contain hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is a chemical with an iron. It contains iron, which is why iron is such an important dietary nutrient. And so hemoglobin is a chemical that absorbs oxygen, that binds to oxygen, forming oxyhemoglobin. And then, so the oxygen from lungs goes into red blood cells via alveoli from lung through the capillary wall into red blood cells, and it's bound by hemoglobin, which forms oxyhemoglobin, and then that gets taken to the cells. The red blood cell travels up to the cell where the oxygen needs to be dropped off, and then that oxygen essentially gets dropped off in the cell, and oxyhemoglobin becomes hemoglobin once again, ready to go back to lung to pick up more oxygen. So, red blood cells carry oxygen, and they use hemoglobin to do that, so they contain hemoglobin. Now, red blood cells are in a biconcave shape. This shape here is called biconcave. It's like a donut shape without the hole of a donut. It's thicker on the outside, thinner in the inside, but it doesn't quite have a hole that a donut would, like a classical donut. And that shape is, the whole reason is to increase the surface area. It's because when we're talking about gas exchange, it's all about surface area. That's why lungs use alveoli. That's why red blood cells are biconcave. This shape simply is the optimal shape to allow them to have maximum surface area possible in relation to their volume inside. Now, in order to be able to carry as much oxygen as possible, these cells have no nucleus. So that's another adaptation that allows them to carry as much oxygen as possible. We are squeezing out, these cells have been optimized to do just that. They're very specialized cells, and they have a very specific job, and the structure reflects that. They are very optimized to do what they do best. So, what's next? Next, we have a group of cells, actually, called white blood cells. Now, there are many subtypes of white blood cells, but that's a story for another day. But white blood cells, in general, are immunity cells. They are important in our immune system. They are basically crucial for removing pathogens from our system, whilst also in some cases helping with the repair of some cells. But the main function is to essentially keep the pathogens out, to get rid of harmful microbes such as bacteria, viruses. They get rid of the harmful, and they also get rid of harmful cells, because some cells, when they get damaged, they need to be removed because they disrupt the work of everything around them. So they also do that. They're basically the cleaner cells that sweep up all the bad cells, and they also sweep up all the bacteria, viruses, etc. Now, they kill bacteria via essentially two means. One way they do this is by phagocytosis. Basically, this means that they literally gobble up these bacteria. They change shape in order to essentially eat those bacteria. So some subtypes do that, whereas other subtypes specialize in producing antibodies and antitoxins, because bacteria obviously can be recognized with antibodies and can be taken out using antibodies. So of course, there is a subtype of white blood cells that is actually dedicated for this job. And also, some white blood cells produce antitoxins, because lots of bacteria and pathogens in general produce toxins. So those antitoxins help us neutralize those toxins and limit the damaging effect those pathogens would have on our body otherwise. And because those cells have such complex jobs, and they're actually more diverse in the function, the nature of their function is more complex, because there's actually lots of things they need to do within our immune system. They tend to have nucleus, and actually some of them have the weirdest nuclei that any cell in our body can have. Like these guys here, these subtypes, they have these kind of C-shaped nuclei that have different nuclear lobes. So obviously you don't need to know too much about the shape of the nucleus, but the main point here is that white blood cells have nuclei as opposed to red blood cells, guys. And the next type of the blood cell we need to talk about is platelets. Platelets are important in blood clot formation. They bind together with each other, and they create this sort of a mesh that acts as a scaffolding for a scab. So if you cut yourself, after a while you will have a scab, and that is thanks to the platelets, because they form this mesh that acts as a scaffold, and then different proteins and cells can attach onto it and form that scab. And platelets actually are very tiny, because in fact they are not considered as much as complete cells. They are actually considered to be cell fragments. And because they are cell fragments, they have no nucleus. And platelets, again, are very crucial, because there are certain conditions that mean that people lack platelets. And in this case, these people bruise easily, and once they bleed, it's difficult to stop the bleeding because they lack those platelets, so the scab cannot form very well, and the blood, it just keeps flowing out. So platelets are very, very important for our circulatory system. They are the plumbers of the circulatory system, if you will. So that's platelets. So we covered the three main cell groups, but now there is also something else. There's a liquid that those cells swim in, and that liquid has its own very important function too. So we'll move on to that. 1 second. There we go. So this liquid is called blood plasma. It's a yellowy straw-colored liquid. And it is not a cell, it's a liquid. So that's, I think, important point to make. And so it's blood plasma. And this liquid is tasked with carrying nutrients. So while red blood cells carry oxygen, blood plasma carries pretty much all the other nutrients. And with that, we have carbon dioxide from the cells, because cells secrete carbon dioxide, and that needs to be removed by our lungs, so carbon dioxide is carried up to our lungs. Blood plasma carries hormones, because that's how cells communicate with each other. One way they communicate with each other is via hormones, and those hormones need to get from cell A to cell B to signal various changes in our body. Urea is a waste product that cells make that needs to go to kidneys and need to be removed from the body. Proteins to build and repair the cells, so that pretty much will be all over the place. And antibodies, as we already discussed, to deal with pathogens and to give us the immunity to a given pathogen across our entire body, rather than just one place where that pathogen was encountered. And antitoxins, obviously, to help us deal with toxins in our entire body, as opposed to one specific place. So blood plasma is actually a crucial part of our circulatory system. And it's yellow straw-colored liquid, which you actually may have seen if you, say, donated blood plasma, or you've seen somebody donate blood plasma, or even received some. In some cases, you may have actually seen it. It's a yellow straw-colored liquid, and the red blood cells, the blood with actual cells in them, is usually red because of the pigment, because of the hemoglobin. So that's the difference here. Blood plasma technically is not made up of cells. And of course here I wrote there's liquid, like I already mentioned. So that's it. This is it, guys. These are the main components of our blood, and those are the functions they play. And hopefully, I helped you to see some structure, how structure reflects on those functions. So this is it for today, guys. Thank you very much for watching my videos. I really appreciate when you guys watch my videos. That's why I do this. I do this to help you guys out. If this video helped you, give me a thumbs up. And if you want to stay up to date on regular math, science, and some biomedical science videos, hit that subscribe button below. And by the way, guys, if you have some specific topic that you would like me to cover, then just let me know in comments, and I will do my best to cover that topic. And if you have any questions, as always, I welcome any and all questions, and I'm more than happy to answer them. So thank you again for watching, and see you next time.